And now, from the Marquee Media Studio inside Mark Tank, it's the Mark Haney Show.
Yes, this is the Mark Haney Show, and we are on a mission to ignite the entrepreneurial revolution right here in the hometown we love. And today's show it's going to be different. Actually, we have 6 people on the show today that are in the Entrepreneurs Organization, and that's including me. And we're going to talk a lot about the Entrepreneurs Organization, but we're also going to talk about why entrepreneurship is important to society. Because, as I always say on the show, entrepreneurs are the heroes of the American economy. But it's more than that, and we're going to dive into some different perspectives on the show with some of my EO buddies. And now, just so you know, I call it EO. It's the Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a worldwide organization, but there's a Sacramento chapter. I've been in it for the last 10 years or so, almost. And it really has some of the strongest business people in Sacramento that are part of this club. And again, it's a worldwide organization, so there's clubs like this all over the globe, and we're all connected. It's a really cool set of mastermind groups that really help each other. And so stick around. And at the end of the show, I'm going to share a little bit about what EO did for me in the early days in terms of inspiring me to start this show and what it's meant for me. And as I think most of you know, I'm on the adventure of my life, and I'm going to share with you what role EO had in getting me from where I was kind of lost to where I am today, hopefully found. Stick around, my friends. Yes, this is the Mark Haney Show, and I am here with some of my entrepreneurial buddies. We're probably going to laugh a little bit on this show. We've been laughing, so let's keep it down, gentlemen. We have with me today members of the Entrepreneurial Organization, EO Sacramento. It's an incredible group, so we're going to talk today a little bit about what EO is all about, what it means to us, and get to know some super successful entrepreneurs here in our region. So Todd Bollenbach, maybe I'll go around and let's start with you, Todd, because I think you're the president of the Entrepreneurs Organization. Maybe we just talk about what is EO.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. It's going to be a great day. So Entrepreneurial Organization, it's a global organization with a little over 16,000 members. Are broken down into chapters regionally. Our chapter in Sacramento is about 90 members right now. Wow. And it spans in businesses that to qualify to be in EO, you have to do at least $1 million in revenue. And then we have companies that are going to push $500 million this year in revenue, all in Sacramento. And we employ 5,000 or 6,000 people every day. And it's just a great community of like-minded people that it's like around that. It's a safe space of a regional network of business owners. You have to be a founder. It's great.
So let's start. We'll go around the table like we do sometimes in forum and ask a sort of an icebreaker question. So maybe introduce yourself, get a little of your background, and then what does EO mean to you personally?
The last one's a hard one. So I'm Todd Bollenbach. I founded G&T Solutions. We are an outsourced IT services company. We're the largest in the region. Built that for 17 years. Had a great exit in 2021. It feels like yesterday at that. It was awesome. We were based out here out in Sacramento. EO to me, it's just a community. It's a community of people that I feel super safe in. I can talk to anybody about anything at any point, and it's wonderful. It's I don't have to worry about somebody like have another agenda when they have a conversation with me. There's not a sales process, there's not a sales pitch. You can't solicit an EO. It's just a great family for me of business people.
Yeah. And so you're the president this year. You've been the president. You're on your second year. Yeah. So we do these 1-year terms, and me, you, and Arik have each done 2-year terms. So Arik, maybe a little intro from you as well, and then what does EO mean to you?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark. Arik Levy, been in the locker business for the last 20 years. Started a company called Laundry Locker, and then software company. My last company was Luxor One, where we put lockers into apartment buildings for UPS, FedEx, Amazon, deliver the packages, and the customer gets a text message, they go and pick them up. I sold that company just like Todd about 3.5 years ago. I now have a venture fund which invests in companies that are doing interesting stuff in the locker industry. So that's been a lot of fun. And EO has been a critical piece throughout that entire journey and really helping me craft my business model, kind of workshop different ideas. It's really it's a peer group of like-minded people. And so as an entrepreneur, it's just very lonely. There's not people, it's hard to talk to your team about stuff. But it's really wonderful to have another group of entrepreneurs. No matter what we're building, we're all solving the same problems and dealing through the same challenges. And so it's great to be in a group where people are doing all kinds of different things. In fact, some of the best inspiration I've had is from someone who's a Cisco reseller, nothing like me, but actually modeled a lot of my business after that person who I was informed with and understanding the dynamics of their business. So just let you peel back the covers, really kind of become very vulnerable and
you can't do that at home. You can't do that with your employees, right? As much a lot of times. So you need a place.
There's no other place to do it. Exactly. Yeah. You're not your employees, even your friends. A lot of your friends are just they don't understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Your family doesn't understand it, right? So, but the people in this room, they all understand it, and they're all going through it every day.
Yeah. Jason?
Great. Jason Bartlett, and I've got a company by the name of Level Financing and Level Debt. What we do is we basically help customers get out of credit card debt, and we do that through negotiating settlements with the bank. The average settlement's about 50%, and then we can do a consolidation loan on top of that to wrap it into one package and get them out of debt in 4 years rather than being in debt for the next 25 years. So that's what my business does. As far as EO and what that means to me, for me, it means a lot of different things. I just happen to have been, pretty good, close friends with a couple guys that had brought me into this group, specifically this forum. So I had some previous relationships. I know some of you didn't have that, but I had that. And just a second to what Todd said, it's a safe space to basically discuss business or personal stuff. And to me, it's a real, it's an honor and a privilege and a very, I take it as something where this is kind of like my school, because I'm around these guys, some of them that have much larger businesses than myself, some of them maybe smaller, but I'm here to learn. And I'm here to try to tie this into learning to accomplish my goals. So that's what it has been for me.
One of the things that hasn't been mentioned yet, but for me, EO has been an inspiration. And because being around people like you guys, it inspires me to want to build something stronger, something more impactful. And I think the club generally has been really influential on me deciding to start the podcast. Oh, you've got this group out there that is all about entrepreneurship, and it's a nonprofit. It's doing good for the purpose of entrepreneurs. And I thought, that's a great cause. And, so some of the stories were missing. Some of the success stories of Sacramento were missing. And because I get inspired when I'm around successful people like you guys, I wanted other people to have that. And so that ended up being kind of the gap that I was trying to fill. It's obviously led to a lot of other stuff, but it started with just a lot of inspiration. Urijah?
Urijah Faber. I been in the mixed martial arts space, been fighting professionally since 2003, before it was legal in California. And at that time,
you were breaking the law?
Not on Indian reservations. The first 8 fights were on Indian reservations. But, for me, I was in a kind of a unique position where I graduated college and I had to find ways to fund my passion, which was fighting at the time. And so I started, becoming an entrepreneur at the very beginning of my career, which allowed me to fight, which turned into a bigger business, and then carried out a lot of those passions and lessons into being an entrepreneur after that. So I've got, gyms, a fight organization, a professional team. I've had clothing lines and some real estate stuff, kind of all over the board when it comes to, business. But this place for me has been all about learning. I almost look at it like like sparring. Like when we had, today's Wednesday, so we had sparring in the gym, and I want these guys to get as close as possible to a real fight feeling without getting themselves injured or, getting extremely hurt or, hurting each other or getting themselves out of a fight. For me, this is an opportunity for me to be around and listen to other people's journeys, be in the thick of wars that I'm not necessarily attached to, hear the ins and outs of it, and learn through like real life experiences. That's the coolest part for me. On top of the friendships, your like-minded buddies that have at least one thing in common with business, but because it's such a random allotment, you get every walk in here. We've had, when I first came in, there was a member, I think nearly 70 at the time, Dave, and then we've had guys that didn't even know who I was at all from a fighting standpoint, like Arik Cordano, that just comes from a completely different background than I do, and then there's guys that that are a little bit more similar, and so it's a really good way to throw yourself into a new environment with an open mind to learn and create some friendships that you may not otherwise have opportunity to make.
Chris
McCarley. I run a company that sells scissors to hairstylists, and recently launched a line of hair color in the same industry, in the beauty space.
Are you guys the largest in the world or the country? You guys are pretty.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I have to get all the data on that, but I think we're pretty close, if not. So yeah, we've got hundreds of sales reps across the country and growing. And I would say EO far surpassed my expectations on what I thought it was. I talked to one of the members of our forum for 2 years, and he was talking to me about it. And my past experience with groups like this was that the people that needed to be there weren't there. And the people that didn't need that type of advice or help were all the people in a group like that, like a 2020 group or a business coaching group. And it's like everyone was there is already on the gas hustling, and that's why they're there. And then people that didn't need to be there wouldn't show up anyways. But this was a totally different thing. Everybody in the group is 100% focused on growth, on their business, on their personal side. And like you guys have said, it really is a place, one of the only places that you can share with other people that are going through exactly what you're going through.
So we interact with each other as these small forums. We've got like 9 people in our forum now. There's 7 of us here today that are on the podcast, but there's also a larger group, as Todd mentioned. There's 90 or so of us in Sacramento. And then in the different, countries around our country and in other countries, there's a lot of opportunity to meet these other entrepreneurs and become exposed to things that we don't necessarily get exposed to in Sacramento. Some of you guys have traveled on some of those trips. I know I have. Jason, you have. Arik and Todd, you guys have. Yeah. Any thoughts on what we can get out of EO beyond? We've talked a lot about our forum, but we can get more out of EO than just here in these small groups, although this is great.
Yeah, I had one of my best trips that I've ever had, and I've been to 35 countries and been around. A lot of those are just my own trips, but this one trip in particular to Nepal, it was one of the best trips I've ever had. I mean, just going into the city, the access that EO gives you to a city when you go in versus if you just went with a couple friends or maybe somebody that even lived there. We did all kinds of stuff, the helicopter ride up to, base camp in Mount Everest, getting to go into the Buddhist monastery, them shutting down Old Town Nepal and throwing this party for the chapter. And I don't know if this is true, but I heard the chapter in Nepal was like 70% of the gross domestic product. So, obviously those guys had a little pull in their country.
Bunch of super successful people getting together. For sure. You could have a good time.
So, and they threw a great party. It was cool. I mean, I'll never forget that trip. So.
How about Todd, you or Arik want to jump in on that?
Yeah, you get to meet amazing people from other parts of the world. Arik and myself, along with your wife Stacy and 10 other people from Sacramento, from EO Sacramento, went to Iceland a couple months ago. It's great. Like, we got a totally VIP experience, just like Jason mentioned, in Iceland and the whole country. licensed 350,000 people. We were 100 people from around the world. From EO, 10 of us from Sacramento, we kind of just took over. Like we just had full access to whatever we needed, and it was great. Regionally, you meet a bunch of other individuals. If you're into a specific topic, if you're into fighting, or if you're into D2C stuff, or if you want to even you want to launch a podcast, there's somebody else that you can reach out to within the community of EO. If they're a member of EO, they're going to take your call. And some of the people that are members of EO or who are part of the founders are people that you see on TV every day, or they're people that you've never heard of, but you have great access to a variety of different folks.
We talk about the adventure that you can, there's learning in some of these travels and adventure and meeting other people. We also talk about business, but what percentage of our forum is really spent talking about business, the X's and O's of building a business, would you say? Chris?
What percentage?
What percentage? Because we talk about other stuff.
Yeah. I don't know, probably, I'd say, 50%. Like half
50 max probably, huh?
Yeah. Half of it's spent on business stuff and half of it is spent on personal stuff. I mean, for me, I get the most out of the business aspect of it. I love listening, and I just don't get a chance to sit down with other business owners and listen to their personal struggles. And I'm always taking something away from those conversations every single time we show up. And you think like, oh, well, this week or this month, I've already met with these guys for the last 2, 3, 4 years or however long it's been. And what am I going to get out of this next conversation? It just seems like there's always something. Yeah. There's always something great that is happening. And a lot of times it's, hey, the PPP or this thing's going on or that government program's going on. I didn't know about it. And everybody's in, there's at least one person, if not everybody, is in tune with what's going on at a local level, in government, finance, at a federal level. Everyone's got their own CPAs, their own attorneys, and all that information just gets shared. So for me, I get a lot out of that.
What about the personal side? Anybody?
Yeah, I think it's big on the personal side. It's not, especially because there's a rule set that we use in here with, keeping things private and the way we communicate and everything else. And so it's like a real free place to like put out, stuff that's near and dear to your heart or close into the family, or if you need some advice or more perspective, I would say less advice on people that have been through stuff. So helps out a lot on that stuff as well. It's
definitely, I can tell you from my perspective, some of the times that I've been able to share the problem that I'm having in a family situation with one of my family members. Not that it's been me necessarily, but that it's affected me. And I've had somebody else like that really cares about me, that knows me, to kind of bounce it off of. So that I can just say thank you to you guys for that. For me, that's been invaluable. So.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. We're all business owners and we're all driving and running in our own worlds. And then we kind of have the same, I wouldn't call them struggles, but we have the same dynamics when it comes to family. Like, how do we make sure we incorporate our kids or spouses, and how do we make sure that we don't, spoil them too much or do something that's out of the ordinary? We have a great network of people to communicate with, and it's super private and it's very open, and it's just a free-flowing conversation.
I feel like our forum, we talk a lot about fatherhood and parenthood. We've also been talking a lot about health and fitness. That seems to have, and I think that's like a craze. And you get people like Urijah and other people that really understand health and fitness, and you got some of the smartest people in the region, in the world, right here that you have access to. So that access is so valuable, and it's so you're so open to that. All of us are. So that's cool. Okay, let's jump around a little bit, maybe go around another icebreaker question. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And what would you say to somebody that might be considering being an entrepreneur? And maybe describe to us why entrepreneurship is important for society and for America. Who wants to start? Chris, you're usually inspired, inspirational about that kind of stuff.
What would I say? I think you're right that you're either wired as an entrepreneur or you're not. And I think we've all been through different personality profiles, and they're really telling on what makes each person tick. And I think every person's wired differently because for whatever reason, maybe it was tribally, you only needed one chief, and then you needed this many people to go out and hunt, and you need this many people. So there's different roles that everybody plays, and none of those roles are any more valuable than any other role. From a value standpoint, they're all the same. I think in America and maybe beyond, this role of entrepreneur has been elevated as something, more valuable than an employee, or more valuable than the CFO, or more valuable. And I think the only reason that is because I think people honor heroes, and heroes are those who take risks, and entrepreneurs take risks. So there is something to be said about entrepreneurs and their role in society and their risk-taking ability. But if you're not wired to take risks, it's not for you, and that's okay. That's not a problem, and it shouldn't be. You need to be who you are wired to be, and not try to be something that you're not. Because if you try to be something you're not, you're just not going to be fulfilled, and you're not going to be content, and you're going to hate your life and hate your situation. So I personally can tell you that I'm wired as an entrepreneur. I know that I can.
When did you know that about? Because Urijah's got 2 little kids. When is he going to know that about his kids? When is he going to see that risk-taking persona come out?
Well, I can speak for myself, and I can say that, for example, personally, if I lost it all and had to sleep on my parents' couch, it wouldn't bother me. So for some people, that would not be okay, and not every.
Your wife Amy probably wouldn't like that.
No, she's wired a lot like me too. Yeah, she knows what she's got, and she's a lot in the same way. And as we built our businesses, and the years that nobody sees when you're living with your parents, or you're struggling, and no one sees those years. But when we were in those years, she was good. We were fine. So I think that's important. Like your spouse, your partner, you want to have. They say you want to be equally yoked, right? Like you want to be like pulling in the same direction and understand each other and what they're going through. But my wife's been amazing as far as that entrepreneurship struggle goes. But yeah, I think you're wired for it or you're not. And I think that America is very, very unique in the freedom that we are afforded to be entrepreneurs and the risks that we're able to take here, which is why that you see that the benefit and the outcome of that risk taking are the huge success stories that we have in America, right? And so I think at some point, I think that should be honored from everybody.
Yeah, Urijah, how would you contrast that, or anything you would add?
Well, I think the original question was like maybe advice that you give someone that wants to go down this path.
Somebody wants to be an entrepreneur, what would you say? And then also importance of entrepreneurship.
I think the first thing is that it's really hard. Like entrepreneurship, it sounds a lot of times like a good idea, and then you get into the struggles and you have to be ready for a friggin' fight when it comes to being your own boss, you making the rules, you figuring out a way to make something happen. So be prepared for a hard journey, but one that's filled with passion. That would be my suggestion, is find something. If money itself is not a motivator, like a lot of entrepreneurs isn't, you got to make sure that whatever you're pursuing is something you're passionate about, because it's going to be hard. And so if you're going to be doing something that's hard and you don't like it, it's a tough life. That's what I tell my fighters too. It's like, if you're not enjoying this, or you can't see the big picture of what you're going for, like, we're fighting each other on the daily basis. We're like pushing yourself till you feel like you're going to throw up and getting, cut daily. That's entrepreneurship, and so don't get it twisted. You see all of us in what we have now as successful entrepreneurs, but there's been a ton of pitfalls. So don't think it's going to be pie in the sky. And if you're ready for that, I think that's what he's saying, either you're cut for it or you're not, then by all means go down that path. And as far as the role of entrepreneurship and the importance of it, I mean, really, in America, it's huge because, this is the land of opportunity, and it takes, a bunch of people that don't want to take a paycheck to get big movement in the industries and in the economy and just in the worldwide situation. I mean, entrepreneurs have really been innovators and creators and motivators for a lot of people. And also, there's nothing wrong with being an employee or somebody that has a safe way of living, but the risk takers have helped drive us.
Well, you think about that, you would be driving to Vegas right now instead of flying to Vegas if there weren't entrepreneurs, right?
That's
the Wright
right.
brothers were entrepreneurs. It goes back to the beginning, right? But it just keeps happening. Jason, you want to touch on this?
Yeah. So I think, to kind of veer off the question a little bit, but I think that the reason why I ended up getting into being an entrepreneur is because I wanted the freedom. And I think that's a big
Personal
appeal.
freedom.
But with that freedom, there's a lot of responsibility. So the freedom can be kind of a flighting thing because you at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, I think, you have to be ready to put in whatever it takes, which can mean zero freedom versus a job, which could be, after you clock in for the 8 hours, you've got all the freedom for the rest of the day. Now, the bright side to that is once you really, really get this thing going right, and if you're successful, you could have more freedom than you ever, dreamed of as far as, if you have the right people in place that are driving your business, and doing the things that need to be done. So, it's just a different animal. It's kind of like you got the do whatever it takes motto versus, I'm going to do this and then that's what I'm going to do. Now, this is kind of like the mentality of I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to where I need to go. That's what I kind of think of when I think of somebody that's going to go into entrepreneurism. If you're kind of like an in the box person and I got to go meet the wife at 5:30 because, dinner's going to be on the table, or, I want to go spend the weekends because that's my time. That's all fine and dandy. But I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to kind of be able to sacrifice when sacrifices need to be made.
Yeah. Arik?
Yeah, I mean, everyone here kind of talked about it being hard. I think, I was not wired to be an entrepreneur. I was kind of wired to be a corporate CEO or something like that. That's where I started my career and enjoyed it quite a bit. But, I found it really kind of being a cog in a wheel. When I started working for smaller businesses, I really, really enjoyed that. And then I really, just wanted to kind of push myself and said, hey, if I ever come up with a good idea, I need to give it a try. And for me, a lot of it was, it's timing. A lot of entrepreneurship is about timing, being in the right place at the right time, being in the game long enough so that you're in the right place at the right time. And it's, you're going to take 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps backwards. But yeah, you're going to take a couple steps backwards to be able to go forward. And for me, it was probably, I'll tell you, a solid 10 years of life of just sacrifice, of steps back from where I was in my career to finally being able to kind of go above that, even, from a salary perspective, from a work-life balance perspective. We were just talking about, but the, EO is about 3 things, right? Business, family, and personal. So, business is really, in the EO handbook, kind of a third of that. And all of those, you make major sacrifices in all of those areas when you go and start a business, right? I mean, your personal life, my personal life was just out the door. I was like, boom. No more dating, no more going out, no more hanging out. Like all my time, all my money was on my business. My family life didn't even exist. I didn't really have a family until my business got to the point where it could support it. And then, the business trying to go through that journey. So it's fun though, it's rewarding. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life, I think. And it's a lot of who I identify as now as an entrepreneur. And I love helping and being part of other people's entrepreneurial journey and guide them through that. So, come up with a good idea. If you've got something you're passionate about, step out and do it, but it's got to be the right time in your life too.
Yeah. Todd?
Yeah, it's amazing. Everybody's kind of has a different core thought here. They all blend. It's if you're willing to get punched in the face, if you're willing to take the risk, if you're willing to be in it long enough, you can kind of have some success in whatever you do. And everybody's like, oh, it's like, great, you have all the success. Yeah, you didn't see the 5 years of like sleeping on a couch or broke and eating off the dollar menu or like whatever it is. Like you just didn't have anything or almost going bankrupt. Entrepreneurship, it's a really, it's a personal kind of process that we navigate through when you are the entrepreneur, when you're doing it. Like it's really moving. But when you're like, we originally started talking about how do you know when like you're younger that person's wired to be an entrepreneur. Like for me myself, I was in first grade selling candy to kids, like going riding my bike at 7 a.m. down to 7-Eleven to buy stuff to go take it to the school. A lot of people here have the same stories, going door to door selling stuff. You just kind of have it built into you. If you want to drive, if you can't work that corporate world. I did the corporate world and it was terrible. It was like, I can't be a part of this. I'd rather go and just try something else than try to go through it. And those people that you see them, you know who they are. They're willing to take those risks, and you have to be a risk taker in some fashion. Like if you're risk adverse, stick to the 9 to 5. You won't, being an entrepreneur is not your thing. But if you have any idea, if you're willing to take a risk on anything, if you're willing to have that drive and passion and go for it, like that's the best. And that's like the definition to me of entrepreneurship and like why to go with it. And then as our kids grow, it's like I have 4 kids and I want to make sure that they have the opportunity to take that risk and make that change and to fail. And if they want to go for it, as long as they're passionate about it, let's support it and see what happens. So a lot of us, probably people told us that we weren't going to make it, quote unquote, make it at one point. And this room's pretty darn successful.
As I said earlier, you guys inspire me. Today's been inspirational, and maybe for the other people that are like us within EO, or even that are not in EO, that have had a little bit of success, and maybe even a tendency to decide, is it time to settle, right? So one of the core values in EO is boldly go, right? So if you are in EO, you are forward-leaning by nature, and you're still in the game. You're still working on bold action. So maybe we can just go around each of you and go, what does boldly go mean to you right now in your life? Urijah, you come in here and you're setting up appointments, making things happen, and you're like that. You are very driven, and you're a guy that doesn't have to be. What's boldly go mean for you today?
Well, for me, it's get up and get the most out of my day. That means being smart about it, making sure I really hit on the things that are important, my kids and family, but like I'm driving for something bigger. And for me, it's about freeing up more of my time. My motivation as a fighter was not just a passion. I wanted freedom. I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to do. And so I'm trying to make sure I secure that ticket for the rest of my life. And so boldly going right now into grinding towards financial freedom, to where I can spend my time with people I like and doing the things I like. And for me, that's what that means. And I have a bunch of stuff, a bunch of irons in the fire, the whole alpha, everything alpha, between the team, my gyms, the fight promotion, the clothing, the BJJ affiliations, and online university, like trying to build a conglomerate that I can grow and put the right people in place to help keep it afloat.
Love it. What's boldly go mean to you, Chris?
So I was just talking to my business partner, who's my best friend, about this the other day, and oftentimes we'll get into a conversation about how we've been doing this for 15 years. It's been a grind. It's been, it's stuff, and we need to get a little more conservative. And we need to start making investments that are more cash flow based and less startup company high risk investments. And literally, by the time we're done with this conversation, we're already talking about these high risk type of investments without realizing it, and then we just start laughing because again, it's part of our wiring. It's like we can't help ourselves. So it's just some point where it's like, well, why fight it? Let's just keep go. Let's just go. Let's just invest in these, these growth factory type startup.
Yeah, everyone
companies.
here is an investor into the growth factory. Thank you guys, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a moth to a flame. I mean, and thanks for introducing me to all these people, but also it's like a drug. It's like, okay, I can't invest in any more startups because I love every one of them. like every idea, I'm like, that's the best idea I've ever heard. Like I have to get involved in this. And yeah, I love it. It's a blessing and a curse. You know, as you guys know, it's like I'd like to be more disciplined and like more of the income-based investment stuff. But I think, yeah, boldly go if that's trying to fit entrepreneurs. I think it rightly fits. It's a perfect slogan for EO.
Yeah. Todd?
Yeah, for me, it would be probably help people in some fashion, if that's through my business or personally. Like, how can I help and be a part of it? Be willing to take some risks and, take some action, if whatever that is, and then get uncomfortable. Like for me, like the more I get uncomfortable, I'm not comfortable in my situation and trying to make change, the more success I have every time. So I don't want to go speak at this event. Boom, I go do it. And I'm like, that was amazing. I got more personal value. I don't want to like take on this new business offering. I'm like, that's going to be a bunch of work. I don't know anything about it. I dive into it, crushed it. Cool. Made a bunch of money. It's so much fun. And then it's taken me a long time to know like what my lane is and how to get involved in it. And a lot of it is like the investing. Like I love it too. I'm like, I love a good idea. I haven't seen a prospectus I didn't like. I'm like, these are awesome. These projections are great.
Sales guys are the easiest to sell.
Oh, totally. It is. And so I love it. And it's like, just like, what can I do to like make change? And for me, it's just to get super awkward and uncomfortable with things.
Love it. Arik?
To me, it means, entrepreneurs change the world, right? I mean, the Wright brothers changed the world. I've changed the world, I think. I think you've changed the world. I think everybody in this room has kind of changed the world, one little piece at a time, right? And so that's what you get to do as an entrepreneur. You get to bring a crazy idea to the world and change things a little bit. And so that's what it means to me. And that's super fun and really, something that I'm proud of and proud of all the people in this room for doing it.
Yeah. Jason?
When I hear boldly go, it reminds me of not when you're kind of like in this nice pattern or rhythm with your business and everything's cool and you've got everything rocking and rolling and going and, everything's delegated out and it's working and everybody believes. It's like when you start a new idea and it can be something like, for example, like when we started trying to get these online leads cranking or whatever, and none of us had ever done it. The sales team doesn't believe in it. They like the way we already do it. And, you kind of have that first meeting with your business partner or with yourself. And then you go into the room and you kind of make this bold announcement. Hey guys, here's what we're going to do. And everybody kind of looks at you like, oh man, really? And so then you go in and you got to get everybody to buy in. And then you kind of start executing the idea and brainstorming and getting everything going. That just reminds me of that kind of like the boldly go or the bravado you have to have when this is just an idea and you're kind of bringing it into executing it.
Yeah, it kind of means that you were afraid at some level. We admit that there's a certain amount of doubt and fear that happens in entrepreneurship. And even thinking about what we were talking about before the show, Urijah was the first guest on our show, and I was so damn nervous just interviewing you like this down at Sports 1140, and I was scared, but it was the start of some journey that led me to venture capital and investing and all kinds of other cool stuff. And so it's because of EO that's happened for me in a very direct way, but in many ways indirectly as well. So I'll lean over to last question, maybe just of Arik and Todd. I've thought of at least one thing that we haven't covered regarding EO that's very important. We got a bunch of dudes here talking about winning, and I know it comes across as a lot of very guy centric, but EO is broader. It's more diverse than what it was 10 years ago. You guys want to talk about that a little bit, and anything else that I made I didn't mention today or didn't bring up?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. We kind of this group is a lot of male-driven conversation, but the diversity in EO is a huge, huge push for us. Like, it's always what we want. We're 20% women. We have a large ethnicity diversity. We represent just about every kind of business offerings of different ownership levels, different kind of gamuts. And it represents the true community as how the business owners are, like kind of our diversity level within business, and we want more and more of that. It's the best. There's a core. Like we're in a forum of 9 people, and we meet once a month. And the cool thing about it, you don't want to be in forum with people that you already knew previously, because then you just kind of get stuck in this rut. And being diverse and being like open to share with others, it's really a cool thing. To learn more about it, there's eosacramento.com. You can check it out, and kind of dive in a little bit more. But
Arik?
Yeah, I think Todd nailed it. I mean, very trying to focus on everything, that kind of falls into entrepreneurship. There's Sacramento, there's chapters everywhere. So for people who are listening to this outside Sacramento, I mean, there's 140 chapters or something all over the globe. And a lot of programs as well, far beyond just forum, but on a local level, we have all kinds of great events, almost monthly events. We have a key executive forum for people's key execs. We have an accelerator for folks that are just starting businesses, doing between $250,000 and $2 million. So we've kind of put that exciting program together. We have a program for spouses of entrepreneurs as well, and then all kinds of regional and global and national events as well. So,
all right, guys, thank you, appreciate it, great convo. Let's go talk some more about business and how we're going to win. Okay, see you guys. Great show today. I really enjoyed hanging out with my EO brothers. Again, in EO, it's not just guys. There's a number of women in there too. It's really a great club for entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of love in that. And I mentioned at the beginning of the show that I was going to talk about the fact that EO in some ways inspired me to start the podcast. So let me take you back in time a little bit. I sold my companies in 2010, stuck with the company at that time enough to get the company off the ground and kind of moving in the right direction. And then I left the company, and I really wasn't planning to leave the company, but I did. And during that summer of 2010, I really was lost. It was really the first time in forever that I didn't have a job. I didn't have my own business going. So what am I going to do? And this period, this summer, if you will, led me actually in some ways to joining EO and to joining this podcast, or starting this podcast, and also starting the Growth Factory. So here's what happened. I bought a dry erase board. I know that sounds like kind of a minor thing, but I bought a dry erase board, and I decided I wanted to create a mission statement for myself. So how am I going to create a mission statement for myself? Well, I'm kind of lost, not sure what I want to do. I figure if I have a mission statement, that's going to help me. So I decided to do something called an ikigai exercise. And an ikigai is a Japanese term that also means something like it's your calling, right? An ikigai is a little bit like a calling. So it's what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you could get paid for. So I made a list of those things: what I was good at, what I loved, what I thought the world needed, and what I could get paid for. And I created sort of like this intersection where I tried to connect the dots, and it led to this mission statement around creating opportunity for my family, for my friends, and for my community. And as they succeed, I succeed. And I felt like that was a good mission statement. So what does that mean? What's the best way to create opportunity? There's lots of ways. It's all around us. But what I found, my experience in small business, it led me to kind of doubling down and helping some small businesses. So I began investing into some more security companies, real estate, a construction company, and that led me to EO, right? So because I own these businesses, I qualified to be in the Entrepreneurial Organization, but I'd never really been in a club like that. And I saw that the good that EO is doing for entrepreneurs. I thought, well, what can I do to help entrepreneurs? So I talked to this guy named Jack Crawford, who owns a venture capital firm here in town, Impact Ventures. And I was inspired by the way he was helping entrepreneurs personally. And I'm like, maybe I can fill a niche by sharing stories of winning and the struggles that entrepreneurs go through on our show. And that led me to the podcast and meeting all these people, and led me to a lot more investments in Sacramento startups and in Sacramento entrepreneurs, which ultimately led me to the Growth Factory. I began talking about wanting to have these 100 millionaire business partners in my backyard. If I could collect 100 millionaire buddies, right, that all loved each other in my backyard, we could probably figure out a way to help one another. And in Japan, there's another term called a keiretsu. It's a family of companies that all find synergy among one another. And there's, in many cases, joint ownership. And I thought, wow, what if I could build sort of a keiretsu? My security camera companies had a little bit of a keiretsu effect. 5 security camera companies all helping each other, all loving one another. And it was an advantage for us. So could I do that outside the security industry? Could I do that inside my community, my backyard? And it's begun to happen. It's kind of an interesting thing. So I've invested into personally about 50 companies through my company Haney Biz. And then the Growth Factory has begun helping companies. We're invested into, I think, 34 companies now in Sacramento. But these portfolio founders, they all love one another. And we have something called the Backyard Advantage, whereby the people that have invested into the Growth Factory are also part of this group that loves one another. We have corporate partners like municipalities and SMUD and the Kings, and they're helping one another. We have 100 mentors, 100 investors plus, and this whole group of people helping one another. And at the center of it is this love, this synergy, this way of thinking about helping one another. And it all, it really all started with the dry erase board, sure, and then getting invited to the entrepreneurship. I was invited by my good buddy Tom Candris, who was my next door neighbor at the time, and that led to all of this. And it prompted me to bring this up because Urijah Faber, who was on the show today, he was actually the first guest on our show, and it was at a time where I was putting myself out there, starting something new, and I was a little bit fearful of this journey, but I'm glad I did it. And that's just a little bit of the story. So come down, visit me. There's a little bit of a story here building with our signage here at the Growth Factory. And I'd love to show you. I'd love to meet you. If you're interested in being a part of this tribe, definitely swing by. We actually have an event coming up. Maybe by the time this thing rolls, it'll have already gone by. But we do a lot of events. We do have one event coming up in October 5th, GFX. So definitely figure out a way to get involved in our events. Come down and see me here in our Rockland offices. It's at the Growth Factory on Granite Drive. But to all you fighting the good fight for our freedom, our security, and our way of life, and of course, all of you out there fighting the good fight for entrepreneurship. Here at the Growth Factory, here at the Mark Haney Show, here at Haney Biz, we're never above you, never below you, always by your side.
Thanks for watching today's show. My goal for every episode is that you find a takeaway, something tangible you can use in your business today. And if you have a comment about a favorite takeaway, feel free to put it in the box below. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to bring up on the show, don't forget to let me know. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Because at Haney Biz, we are always by your side.